A special feature published recently by the news web portal QQ.com entitled "Why Do Foreigners Leave China?" has aroused quite a bit of discussion amongst Chinese net users. First, the feature cites figures from China's National Tourism Bureau, which show that even incoming tourist numbers dropped 5% in the 6 months from January to July compared to the previous year. It then goes on to say that more and more long-term foreign residents have also left the country, have already left or are considering leaving China. It cites a number of articles written over the past year by high-profile expats in China, most in foreign publications, explaining their reasons for deciding to leave and why a country where some of them have actually lived for decades. And one of these, a farewell letter entitled "You'll Never Be Chinese," an English businessman, Mark Kitto, cites absence of rule of law in business and other aspects of life and worries over his children's education as reasons for leaving. He summarises, "I have fallen out of love, woken from my China dream." Meanwhile, an article in the Financial Times earlier this year also mentioned the phenomenon which has persuaded some foreigners to leave, and that is the atrocious air quality standards in cities such as Beijing, certainly cities in northern China. But what do Chinese net users feel about these anecdotal accounts as they are? Do they think China is losing its attraction for foreigners who live here? And if so, why? Well, to find out what they're saying, let's cross over now to the newsroom and our researcher, Julia Liu. So first of all, Julia, from what you're seeing, do Chinese net users agree that more foreigners are actually leaving the country? And what do they have to say about the article's suggestions as to why?
Well, on this question, in fact, people seem to have rather different opinions. Well, some think it definitely is a trend. This poster, 工作 QQ 不要到, believes that there are. Well, there are just so many problems in this country. To be honest, there are so many Chinese who want to leave too, but don't have the possibility yet. So it's perfectly natural to see more foreigners leaving when they can't bear it anymore. And 绿色心情 also seems to think so, and has this rather pessimistic theory. Well, maybe our foreign friends who come from a different culture and background can experience how hard it is to make a living here, while we are already too numb to feel this. And in fact, a poll which was taken on the same pages as the special feature shows that 96% of over 32,000 posters say they do understand why such people would leave, while only 4% disagree. However, there are some other net users who question the existence of this phenomenon in the first place. This poster says on xinhuanet.com. There are almost 1 million foreigners in China, and they come and go for all kinds of different reasons, some of them really personal. As a matter of fact, I question the intentions of some foreign media who exaggerate this phenomenon based only on a handful of articles written by just a few individuals. And there are also some posters like the 4% in the poll who seem rather upset that anyone should prefer to live elsewhere. For example, this poster says on China.com, "Nobody forced you to come to China in the first place. Have a nice trip home."
Okay, Julia, could you perhaps give us a brief summary of why net users who agree there is an exodus of foreigners feel that they are going?
Well, a lot of them actually tie it to the economy and feel that it's natural with the less opportunities that people should move elsewhere. This poster says on Tencent.com. Well, the economic growth of China has slowed a lot in recent months, while the economy of developed countries like the US is recovering. So it's no surprise seeing foreigners going back to their home countries. But there are some who think this is just an excuse. For example, Wan Xia echoes a widely held belief that foreign businesses are treated better by the government. He says on QQ.com, "The good times of foreign businesses getting preferential policies from the government have gone, and now more and more Chinese have acquired knowledge of how to do business. And of course, this means that foreigners feel it's harder to compete with such strong rivals. I think it's down to personal ability rather than the business environment." But net users do seem to agree on another reason given for deciding to go: environmental concerns. Xiangxi is one of many who shares those worries. "I believe this is not a problem only faced by foreigners. I have completed all my preparations to leave Beijing. I feel awful living in this environment, and I can see nothing wrong with their choice."
Okay, then. Finally, are there any other factors that Chinese net users feel might have an influence on foreigners actually deciding to leave China?
Sure, plenty in fact. And I'd say that besides environmental concerns, the topic that most cite is the education for foreign kids in China. For example, this poster says on forum.china.com, As far as I know, tuition fees in the international schools are quite high, sometimes high enough to bankrupt a family. And then the education here is frustrating. Kids are always taught how to take exams rather than gaining practical knowledge. Well, this hasn't just driven away foreigners. It's also persuaded many Chinese parents to do the same in recent years. Meanwhile, some Chinese net users wonder whether it has to do with the status of foreigners and the green card system here in China. This poster asks on 360doc.com. Everybody knows how hard it is to get a permanent residence, the so-called green card, in China. Currently, there are only a few thousand foreigners who have one. Well, maybe this makes foreigners here feel insecure and leads to them not having a sense of belonging in the country. And finally, I have a few comments from net users on whether or not this will have a negative impact on China. Well, some don't really seem to be too worried. Bao Qin Qingtong Yishu says, it's a matter of interest. Quite a number of the foreigners who left China have made a fortune before and find it hard to make as much profit now. I think it's just a matter of survival of the fittest. While there are also those who do worry, and this poster, 何默默又想当爸爸, says on Weibo.com. Well, it's a pity to see talented foreigners who were attracted by China and could have made more contribution to the development of our country finally give up. And everything happens for a reason. I just wish them all well, no matter where they are.
Okay, thanks for that, Julia. And that was China Tech researcher Julia Liu with a reaction online here to anecdotal accounts of more foreigners, long-term residents leaving China. Next up on China Tech, some of the top trending phrases on China's most popular search engines.